There's a psychedelic fuzz in all the albums that I rank by them.
I think when we trace the lineage of my kind of post-Bowie baritone alternative rock, we can somewhat neglect to include the psychedelic furs. They might be a bit of a missing link between, like, Bowie, Bauhaus era and Suede, Me era. I think the band name is recognized, but they didn't have much chart hits, maybe a bit more in the USA, because they were associated with that John Hughes film. So I think that's where they mostly tour now, and they've got several American band members now. If you look at their UK chart positions, not impressive, but if you look at their music, it is. Starting with something that's obviously from the punk wave, like maybe one or two of them were at that Sex Pistols gig that everyone claims to have been at, but by having 6 band members, by refusing to not be psychedelic, they bring a unique character to the movement. It's very propulsive music. It's quite crowded. They've not yet got the hang of song structure, and that works in this one's favour. It's a pounding and relentless debut. They've got a bit of a habit of having one dud track on each album. I should probably say which one it is. It's Fall. Ugh. But otherwise, this sets up the kind of motifs and like skeletal form that they'll work on in the next couple of records. The thickness of the music has some thread you can follow through to industrial music, and the narrative character is already in full view, a kind of withered cynic. Yeah, relatable. It's appreciable, if not quite remarkable, for its own content. It's a solid start. Then they perfected that vibe. They brought in some proper riffs, some proper structure. This is a prurient gargoyle of an art punk album. It really hones in on it. This first one can just sound a bit like ad hoc improv. It wasn't exactly, but just the formlessness of it. Now they're doing that with a full purpose and a couple of real shining singles. We thin down on band members as we go, and honestly it's probably for the better for continuing that sound. Here the furs are sharpened once again into something more pleasant, more lush. It's actually suitable for the masses now. There's some lovely melodies on here. Still completely honest to the vibe that they'd set up, just pushing that in the best way, showing what they've learned, showing more variety, adaptability, and talent. With the band thinned down, there's now the perfect complement between guitar riffs and synths. And atop that, Richard's found the perfect thing to do with his voice, which is to be this hoarse, caterwauling, zombie crone Bowie that still manages to sound romantic, like a poet with leprosy. On this album, they found the perfect balance between accessible and kick-ass. Then there's the kind of pop turn where you just put the singer on the cover. I mean, the remaining 2, there's only 3 of them left are on the back. Despite the official personnel, they've steered further towards synthy sounds on this. And sadly, with that, toward mediocrity. Not directly because of that. There's still enough good tracks to make this worth your time. There's a few that just plod along with a medium-paced drum machine and you're waiting for the chorus and then you're unimpressed by the chorus. And yet it also has Ghosts in You, Alice's House and Highwire Days, so ultimately enough great songs for it to be fully fine. But that's also some plain material getting by on a technicality. I tend to have a look how things were received, not specifically as research for this series, but just that's the kind of thing I read. And as far as I can tell, any self-respecting fan will point this out as a shark jump moment. Well, guess who's not self-respecting? Here they've focused on making it garish and straight for the nightclubs smelling of alcohol lit only by neon. They've made it Los Angeles, maybe Las Vegas. Those are places I've not been. But here, by fully committing to the bit, they've made that kind of alleged sellout artistic. There's the timeless tragedy of Heartbreak Beat, which I describe as their best single. This thoroughly satisfying, like, stadium alt-rock. If not for the necessary dud track, the aptly named Torture, and accepting the contract of relying on a previous single, Pretty in Pink, this is otherwise a feast of some of their best material. It's just all dessert. Like, it's not that good for you. After that kind of big mainstream reach, you get the bounce back, the confused and reluctant pulled punch. As we reach the end of the 80s, we get that oddly spacious, acoustic Stephen Street-like sound, where the artifice of the drum track really undermines the rest of the music that doesn't complement that at all. But it's not just the production, they've kind of forgotten to put any hooks in. This is a band as tired as they look. Still reasonable material, just not fulfilling, not delivering on the first brand. They course-corrected that on the next one with the same kind of vibe, but remembering to put the hooks in. So it's still a version of the confused and neutered Fars, and they've literally got Stephen Street. That's a notable step up, but only occasionally impressive. Then we've got another band name. Now it's got both the Butler brothers, who are the only consistent members of the Psychedelic Fars, but here they're working with some American musicians, and I think that's worth highlighting. The guitarist they're with is best known for his admittedly later work as a member of Guns N' Roses, not an OG member of Guns N' Roses, but I think that communicates the vibe they're collaborating with here. But it's also 1994, so they need to fit in with the grunge wave. I don't know how conscious a decision that was, but it's definitely the right choice after those last couple of albums. And it makes for a creatively rejuvenated band. I know Love Spit Love in the general cultural lexicon is only really considered relevant for the duration of the theme tune to an occult TV drama, but their albums which don't contain that Smiths cover are worth a lot by themselves. This first one is the bigger deviation. Maybe the first thing you'll notice is how more normal the song structure is. This is with musicians who learnt music the proper way, not just through hitting things, which of course was the charm of the Fars, but it's taken a welcome break right now. Here we've got more space for the gloom of alternative rock, and it's just a real stand-up, somewhat experimental album. Some of those experiments fall flat, like falsetto rapping and the kazoo solo. Still worth it for the good ideas. And they did one more, and here Love Spit Love know exactly what they're doing, except on that last track. Yeah, they've found their voice now. This is a band that you can properly believe in. It shows a momentum that I think they could have sustained for multiple more albums. Maybe the band name is just a technicality and they carried on the spirit of this, but this album is worth singularly highlighting as one of the best of 90s rock. The Psychedelic Furs reunited in name. I mean, I guess they brought back the saxophonist who was kind of unofficially part of the band for a long time, but I guess mostly they realized what would sell concert tickets. They went on touring their 80s material for a very long time before coming up with new stuff, with the one notable exception of the amazing song For Once in My Lifetime that was on like a live record at the turn of the millennium. And before I reach the very long-awaited next Psychedelic Furs album, the Richard Butler album is really great. I just don't have a CD copy because I'm not made of money. It's what you get when you take him out of the Furs' odd and brutish approach to musicianship and to something far more strummy and songwritery, but also electronic, soaring, ethereal. The music side is down to someone else, but Richard's vocals and lyrics each show new highs here. Here he's fulfilling his obvious potential as a solo singer career, a sage. It's consistently excellent, in a way that the quick turnaround of 80s albums can't match up to. And then across many years of touring, they amassed new material, like one song every 3 years or something, and one of these is upcycled from his solo work. Yeah, it's one of those very long-in-the-making comeback albums where they've scraped together the few things they've written across 2 decades. The Furs are now going without the charm of their 80s, cack-handedness. There's a professionality to their music now that maybe means they've lost their distinctive charm, but also means it can be pretty great music. I think some of the tracks just kind of pass by, but there's enough highlights and a cool enough total vibe to make it a good comeback. It's possible they may have more to release in future. It would probably be around this quality, and I would stay subscribed for that. They have actually now grown into themselves, like they're now finally as middle-aged and disaffected and cynical as their vibe has always communicated. So that provides a bit of artistic closure, you know, it was a cool juxtaposition when it was juxtaposition, but now it's just a position. Ultimately, though, just what a cool band, and with a career that's mostly highs. The strengths of the band feel like the strengths of visual art, sometimes delicate, often brutal, some awesome pop art, but plenty to make you think and to immerse in.